Now, actually, speaking of War Room, the fact that we have to rebuy all of the cards pisses me off. And the reason why
even if there's a discount,
the reason why it pisses me off is because Mark III for Mark II is an update. Part of what we were promised is buying the whole, the packet or the cards on War Room is that updates were free. I don't care that it's a new edition. I don't care what they call it. It is an update, and that bothers me. Like, it's like, well,
so depending on how steep the discount is and how much the decks cost, that'll determine how much I'm actually bothered. I hate it in principle. Like, I paid like fucking $60.
Same here.
$66 for all the decks or whatever. But like, if I only have to pay like 50 cents extra per deck, I'm okay with that. Because like, that's
my understanding in this. Maybe this is wrong. So maybe I'm overly zealous on the negative side. But my impression is that we are going to have to buy them all again at like $15 or $8 or whatever it is, $9 a deck.
Okay, so that is a more expensive than what they are.
I don't know what
now. Well, like let's say that's the same price.
Yeah.
They said that we're going to get them at a discount if you already have them. They said that. So if it's the same price, then yeah, it's garbage. That's fucking terrible. Especially considering if you bought the decks earlier this year, you get the new ones for free. If that's like I said, they've said there's going to be a discount.
So if I go and buy all those decks right now, I will get the new ones for free?
I think so. I mean, you're still buying them. Like,
yeah. I mean, so
the question is, like, the steepness of the discount is what's important to me. Like, say the new ones are $8, the old ones were $6. If I have to pay the $2 difference, I'm totally fine with that. It's kind of shitty, but it's not like I'm not getting screwed.
The thing is because they had promised the free updates, I feel like we are getting screwed. Like, I feel like that was an expected part of the deal.
See, when I read that, I don't know where that was. This was when War Room came out. I was under the understanding that when new cards were added, we'd get the new cards.
Yeah.
That's what my understanding.
Well, there's that too.
And like errata is already updated automatically. So I agree with you in principle. Like I don't like having to pay for them again. But there's a lot of, like, if we're to believe what they say, there's been a lot more dev work on War Room, and then they had to do the work of creating all these new cards, all these new assets.
Okay, but let's talk about, I mean, when you're talking about
artwork and everything, right?
When you're talking about electronic purchases, $60 is a lot of money.
Yes.
Like, when you consider, I don't care how much dev work they did on this app. This app is not a $60 app.
Well,
I mean, value-wise, maybe, but
you're not paying for that. You're paying for intellectual property, right?
That's true.
And you got to keep in mind, right, when you're talking about like iPhone apps where people are buying, where 3 million, 4 million people are buying it.
No, but let's talk.
That's a huge deal. But when you're talking about War Machine players, you're talking about maybe 30,000, 40,000 players.
No, and I understand that, but at the same time, it's just when you consider, like, what can you get in gaming for $60? What can you get?
In fairness, we're also not the average users. We both bought all the decks, but there's plenty of people who buy just their own deck.
Let's see, that's me. I bought Ret and Mercs, and that's it.
And that's like a $6, $12 purchase.
Sure. I think that because, I mean...
And it's still cheaper for you to have bought all those decks than the alternative, which was to buy all of the books.
Or all of, like, physical faction decks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which are like $20 a piece.
So, and didn't have all the stuff in the new book.
Also,
okay, and the thing is, but here's the thing though, is I agree with that, which is why I bought the decks at what they're asking, and I felt like because they were going to be giving me future content based on this purchase, that was justified. But then asking for that money again because a new edition, that's where I get pissed off.
Again, conceptually, I agree with you, but my feelings on the matter will depend precisely on like the discount and the price that we have to pay. Like, sure, I'm not saying you have no grounds to be pissed, even if the discount is like, even if we only have to pay a little bit, you can still be pissed. But like, personally, I feel like if we're just paying like the difference between the old product and the new product, I don't really care. I think that's okay.
I mean,
if that's what it is.
On a fundamental level, because I was sold with the idea that we get free updates, I think paying anything for it is unreasonable. I think that paying full retail price is
ridiculous.
Ridiculous, exactly,
yeah.
And that's.
I can totally agree. Like I can conceptually I can agree with what you're saying. I just like practicality wise, I have to I do programming. Like I know that it can be hard work, especially when they say they've done a lot of back end updates too. And if I have to pay like $2 a deck to update it, I'm not really going to be bothered that much.
I mean,
even if it is conceptually...
The thing
Well,
is,
they
I
can't
feel
be
like
free. They really just can't.
I feel
be
like
free. There's just no question about
I
it.
feel like the product that they sold us initially, if that's the case, it was a disingenuous promise of future content. I don't feel like the updates that we got were sufficient enough to warrant the overall cost. If they go the route of like, well, everybody gets to pay retail again.
So they were roughly like $6 a deck, right?
Yeah, and there's like 11 or 12 decks.
Yeah, but what I'm saying though is that $6 a deck, right? The books are like $35. The faction decks were like $20. And then plus there was like the colossal books and like all of the other upgrade books that all got baked into that too, that were all like $30-$40 each.
The question comes down to
the
like
$6 a deck is more than reasonable in my opinion.
Okay, but but at the same time, when the promise of content is there, like that's where it's significant, because we're not saying, okay, well, it's going to be $60 for this one-time purchase. They said explicitly that you're going to get updates. We're going to add in the new cards. You're going to get all of it for that cost. It's a matter of this is what they promised and this is what they're delivering, and those don't match up, at least in my opinion.
But they do, actually, because I don't think anywhere in that it said actually that new edition would be covered in that too, right? So.
Probably not, but at the same time, too, like a new edition is an update, right?
I mean, there's semantic disagreements there. Like,
I mean, it is an elaborate.
I don't know. It just call me like a GW guy, basically, but. The idea of GW giving anything away for free is totally ludicrous, right?
That's true, but
I understand that
the thing is, if they took your money and promised to do it, that's where the problem is.
See, I think from a business standpoint, I don't think it's feasible for them to have done that.
Maybe not, but then don't promise in the first place.
But it's okay. So, see, I didn't read that the same way you do, and maybe it's coming from like I said, other wargaming backgrounds, whereby full edition changes aren't subject to regular rules. I wouldn't have actually just made that kind of assumption when somebody said that you would get all of the updates.
See, well, I mean, and that's the thing. It's like, okay, so one could, there's two different sort of, issues there. The one thing is, maybe in the fine print it says, when we move to Mark III, it's not included. Maybe that's stated somewhere.
Maybe they could have. So in your opinion, you would rather that they have done it a totally opposite way and actually just came out and said that War Room is now being discontinued. And this is the new app for Mark III called...
No, I'd have the same problem with it. What I would rather them have done is one of two things. Either when they sold it initially, say, okay, here's the decks that you're buying. We may periodically do updates. We may not. Right. Be explicit with that. Give your if that's their intent. Because this Mark III's been in development for 3 years. We know that much.
Yeah.
War Room's been around for what, a year and a half, 2 years?
More than that.
Maybe.
War Room's been around for a while.
I don't think War Rooms existed for 3 years.
It came out just
maybe
after 8th edition, probably. So yeah.
No, not War Room. War Room was far after, I think.
It's been around for more than 2 years because
it's been around since about the time I started. I don't know if it was just before or just after.
Okay.
It was
so,
new.
So
I
the
remember
thing
it being new.
I think that they have had a lot of time to consider what they wanted to do with this new edition. And even ignoring the argument entirely, even if they're totally justified in all of the documentation that they had, based on the promises that we've received, it still feels shitty. It doesn't, the perception of it is that it sucks. That there is, and I mean, their discount is a way to try and make it amicable, but that's also recognizing that there's a problem.
Right. I mean, yes, and on a fundamental level, it's not great.
So,
I just, the degree to which I'm upset about it is tempered by the magnitude of that discount.
See, to me, the degree with which I'm upset about it is, I don't know that I'm going to give them any more money for that at all, and if I have to go to alternate sources to find those, I might. That's because I feel like
there's an interesting counterpoint there, where what you're saying then is you could pirate it or alternate sources, whatever, and then you pissed away that $66. It's nothing.
I feel like that if with this though that $66 has been pissed away. I don't feel like we've been given the
again.
value.
That depends 100% on the magnitude of the discount. Because if the new decks are $8 and they just want you to pay the difference, that $2, the $66 isn't pissed away unless you don't buy the.
I mean, and I think that's an argument. Fair enough.
I agree with you conceptually that it's kind of gooning us, but I just think practicality-wise, I don't think it's unreasonable for them with this huge update to say, "Hey guys, we did a bunch of stuff. Can we have a little bit more money?" Depending on how much a little bit more money is.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. We don't have enough or a lot of information about it.
If I pay another $6 a deck, I'm gonna be fucking pissed. I'm gonna be at least as pissed as you are now if I have to pay another $6 a deck.
And the thing is, what I would rather see is I'd rather see them offer products with a lot of value for us. The battle boxes, maybe they're not necessarily a lot of value for you specifically, but I think that there's a lot of value to that product, especially comparatively speaking to the old battle boxes. Whereas this, I don't feel like there's...
You don't feel like there's a lot of value to War Room?
No, I feel there's value to War Room, but I feel like for those of us who've already paid for it, it's just getting gooned. And I don't...
Okay, but again, conceptually I agree that it sucks that we have to pay more.
I feel like it's we've already paid for value that we're expecting.
No, well, we paid for value in Mark II. And again, this is 100% based on how much additional that I have to pay. My judgment on this. If we're only paying a difference in cost, then we're still getting that value. I don't want to have to pay for the decks again because that's bullshit. Because we did already pay for the value. But if it's if we're paying up to $2 a deck or up to the difference between old and new, I feel like we're still paying for the same amount of value. It's just we're contributing back to them for developing that app, which otherwise they didn't need to do. I mean, and we're the outlier that we bought all of the decks. If it's someone else who just bought their one faction deck or maybe two, it's not really that unreasonable to pay $12 to update your faction book for a new faction, for a new edition. I mean,
it comes down to...
Yeah, it's the conceptual promise of free updates. Yes?
Well, yes. And I mean, there's going to...
You're not wrong.
There's an argument over...
So their wording actually isn't that way. The wording is that in addition, purchased faction decks will be updated with the stat cards for each new faction model on the model's release day.
Okay. I mean...
So I get where you're implying out of that, but what they're actually saying is that actually they will update it with new model rules. So this isn't actually any new model rules. These are actually a rewrite of old.
So there's two things about that.
These are new model rules, but they're not rules for new models.
Right.
Okay, but there's also two things about that. First off, because they've already updated current models, there's an implication.
And stuff like
there's an implication that they will continue to do so. And secondly, even if that's the case, even if they're 100% justified in charging 100% MSRP new retail prices for all of the whole thing,
they'll get people pissed
off.
It
still feels shitty. It feels like we're getting gooned, and I still think that there's a problem there, and I think that their discount is a way of addressing a problem that they know exists.
How much have you played War Machine in the last 4 years, or let's say 3 years?
Quite a bit.
Had War Room,
quite a bit,
right? So you don't feel like you've gotten good value out of it. So let's say you've played 70 games.
So in my case,
let's say you played 100 games. So you paid $60, right?
So so here's a couple things, and this is that comes down
50 cents a game.
So there's a couple things though. First off, you're talking about a couple of different things. You've got one's perceived value on the product. You have one's perceived value on what they've got out of it,
right?
And you also have what you believe you've been sold. Now, the way I interact with the product may be different than the way Bryce interacts with the product may be different.
Which is not at all. I don't have War Room.
Okay, fair enough.
That's why I've said nothing. Okay. I have.
It's a free app, Matt. No.
So for example, let's say you're one of the people that loads up War Room, they build their army list in there, and then they go to the little play a game function, use that as their cards. There is a certain amount of value to their experience based on what they believe the value is.
Correct.
Okay. For me, the only thing I really have used War Room for is basically to look up stats and kind of mostly just to discuss on the channel. It's like, hey, this is, here's some updates. We don't, rather than having to source alternate methods to get the information, that's just kind of a consolidated place. I don't use it for individual games. Most of the time when I build in my list, I use paper cards. I don't tend to build a lot in War Room. So my interaction with War Room is fairly limited on some of the functionality that other people may have more value from. That being said, I think that that's irrelevant. I think that how much perceived value I have based on the money I've spent is irrelevant. I think that, to me, the agreement of X dollars for what I believe that they promised us and what they've delivered on by way of FAQ updates and stuff like that, most of the value I put into War Room was in there. Because this way, if, like when Warders got the change, that War Room's updated, Warders no longer have Weapon Master, and it's all in a consolidated place, so I don't have to necessarily worry that my other information that I've also put money into and bought is unreliable.
Well, what do you mean your other money that you've also put money into?
Well, like the army books, stat cards.
Yeah, I'm asking specifically. Are you talking about cards?
I'm talking about exactly and I understand.
But you didn't put money into the card. You put money into the models, and it just happened to come with a stat card.
Well, okay,
how much of your money, like say you bought a box of Warders for $50, how much of your money is actually going to that card, which you could have just pulled information out of War Room?
I mean, I think that a valuable enough portion. Like, I feel like that the card's inclusion is valuable in itself.
Well, because it's required. You can't play without it.
But you can if you play War Room. You can track moves on them with.
You
could
play out of the book if you really
Okay,
wanted.
but with like a War Beast or a War
Use
Jack,
dice.
if you don't have the card, to use dice for what?
320-sided dice for various aspects.
Yeah, but without the card, how do you know how many boxes it's got?
I mean,
yeah, okay, but it would
be
that
annoying.
point has to be either the book, the card. So there is some value to the card, right? Is that if I don't have the card, then I've got to buy a $35 book.
I agree.
And have dice and stuff like that.
I agree that there's
War
value
Room's
to
the
the card.
same thing, though. It's just a different aspect of the same thing, right?
I'm not trying to diminish your complaint that you thought you feel like you're promised something and you're not getting it, and you're not really wrong. I don't know. Personally, I don't know that I expected with a new edition that they would keep all the cards. I probably did, but I'm not. I'm also not super surprised they're asking for some more money. It depends on exactly how much to know whether I'm actually pissed off about it or whether I'm just mildly annoyed.
Fair enough.
But when you think about it another way too, going from second to third, even if you had to pay another $6 for every deck, what other game on the planet do you get all of the rules for every model in the game on an edition switch for $66? If you told someone at Games Workshop that going from and this is back in the past, going from 4th edition 40K to 5th edition 40K, that you could pay $66 and have every codex, they would tell you are fucking crazy.
Or at least the stat lines for every
Even Malifaux, right? You had to buy all the Wave 1, Wave 2 faction decks just for your faction, which was $25.
Oh, but the thing is, in War Machine, you're buying you can buy the faction decks as well as it's not exclusive.
But what I'm saying though is that if I was to do the same thing with Malifaux, I would have to buy the 7 factions, 2 decks, Wave 1 and Wave 2. I'd be looking at a good $300-400 just to have the cards for everything.
I mean, I realize.
Or I could just buy the Wave 1 rule book, the Wave 2 rule book, the Wave 3.
The caveat is that Weird did give away the stats to their cards prior to that.
Now, temporarily.
There were temporarily, but they gave that was.
I don't think the final. They did actually for Wave 2. They did the final for a long time.
Yeah,
not
but
the Wave
1 maybe not.
Yeah.
But they gave at least beta rules for that so people could play.
Yeah.
Now that being said, no, other companies don't. At least to my knowledge, maybe I'm wrong. Don't have a platform to be able to do that. However, if they did, my expectation would be the same. Assuming I bought with that.
This might be just me being a little bit prejudiced, but I would expect Games Workshop to goon the shit out of you. I would expect them to be $15 a codex.
Yeah, but I wouldn't buy it. That's the thing. It's that at a certain point, to me, it's not worth it. Whereas this I bought because I felt it was worth it based on the criteria that I understood.
Right. Okay. So I think that's where it comes down to it.
I think we should just move on to this point.
This is hella
We're going to
circular.
spend half an hour on this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see how that shakes out. And
I'm sorry, Bryce. I mean, it's not entirely my fault, but...
I mean, I was just listening and just following along. I don't use war rooms. I'm just like, you guys are...
Bryce is like playing elevator music in his head and like...
well, no, okay, let's just ask somebody who's not invested any money into it. What are your thoughts on that idea?
I think if they pay the difference, that's fine. Anything more than that is too much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, paying the difference because you paid this much money for a product, now it's worth this much, you can pay the difference, that's fine.
I will be upset proportionally to how much more.
Yeah,
like, if the difference is $3, at $3.50 I'll be ticked. At $4 I'll be pissed off. At $5 I'll start getting enraged.
I'm on that. Like, if you paid for the service and I can pay for it again, that's pretty shitty. If you're just paying the difference for the what the new stuff is, that's fine.
Although the flip side of that is fuck the people who bought it in the grandfathering period of this year. Fuck those people in particular.
Hey, I'm thinking about going and buying it when I get home.
So yeah, I mean,
I might start using War Room just so I can keep up with the new rules as soon as they come out. But I have to buy a bunch of other stuff that I don't really want.
And maybe my ire is unjustified, based on the fine print. Maybe their approach is more reasonable, more moderate than I'm thinking it will probably be. I just, considering how far into War Machine we've gone, and how much I believe we've supported the company, I don't like getting gooned. And and the thing is, I don't like feeling that way either, right? So
that's the thing, is the feeling of it, because I actually don't feel like you're getting gooned, but I can definitely empathize with the fact that you do feel that way.
Okay, fair enough.